It looks like people are slowly filtering in. Hi, everybody. We're just waiting for everybody to be admitted from the waiting room. And it looks like you're all here. Good morning. My name is Billy, and I am the founder and organizer of Bookstore Romance Day. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of you for coming and thank all of our authors for being here with us to talk about sports romance. And now I am going to leave you all alone and turn this over to Lauren Edwards of Kinfolk Bookstore, and she is going to be your host for today. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Billy, for that introduction, and welcome everybody to the Sporty Spice panel, where we're going to talk all things sports romance. My name is Lauren. I'll be the moderator for the day. I co-own Kinfolk Bookstore with my sister. I'm delighted to get to spend a little part of this Bookstore Romance Day with some of the industry's leading authors. I first want to take the time to thank our sponsors and publishers for making this day possible, as well as Billy, like she said, the founder and organizer of this day, for allowing us to gather and kind of talk about some of our interests. So without further ado, authors, if you could please give just a brief introduction just about you, and also mention either your most recent project or what you're currently working on, and kind of give us a little spiel on what we can expect from you coming up.
I'll go. Hi, I'm Tessa Bailey. I write contemporary romance. Currently in the middle of my new sports series, which is called the Big Shots series. I kicked it off with the most exciting sport you have ever heard of, which is golf, and which is a book called Fangirl Down. And now I've kind of transitioned into hockey. There's going to be some baseball romance, softball romance coming up in the series, and I just released the Au Pair Affair in the last couple of weeks, and I don't have a copy with me, but yeah, so sports romance, yay.
Thank you. Who would like to go next?
I guess I can go next. I'm Mariana Zapata. I write slow burn romance. Sometimes there's sports romance, sometimes they're not. But right now, my latest release was All Roads Lead Here, which is not sports romance. And my next book is a surprise. It's not sports romance either, though, so I'm kind of, ooh. But that's me.
Nice. I'm Grace Reilly. I also write sports romance, obviously. I just had the last book in my sports romance series, that's College Set, which it served, come out on Tuesday. So I just wrapped up like a whole kind of sports era moment. I'm currently working on something that isn't sports though, so I'm not going to say anything else, just it's not really relevant. But yeah, also contemporary romance and also love sports.
Go. You go. I'm Sebastian. I write queer, mostly historical romance, and my most recent book, You Should Be So Lucky, is a 1960 baseball romance. I do have like another novella that's sort of baseball adjacent, but that's the only book I have that's really a sports romance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm Kate Cochrane, and my book hasn't come out yet. This is it. It's called Wake Up, Nat and Darcy. It's about a couple of former hockey players who were teammates, and then they hated each other, and now they have to work together on a like morning show kind of deal. So I write about queer jock girls and women.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. So just to get started, so I know some of you do a little bit of just contemporary, some sports, we have some historical in there, but what inspired you to mainly write sports romance?
So I'm not sure. I was watching, so I love sports. I played sports growing up. I played like AAU basketball competitively like my whole youth. And I'm a fan. I like going to watch professional games. But it never like really occurred to me to write it. And then I was watching of all, I know I'm going to keep like making fun of my own self for writing a golf book, but it's actually my favorite book. Fangirl Down. I was watching golf and I've always not really liked it. And then I kind of got fascinated by this woman who was caddying for her husband. And I was like, wow, like she's giving him advice and he's taking it. This is like this is crazy. Like, and that he's valuing her opinion. I was like, that is the most sexiest thing I've ever seen. It was just so sexy to me. And then I started thinking more about like how there is no relationship like that in any other sport, where there's like these two people who are confidants throughout the whole process and working together. And I thought, this has got to be something. So I kind of started with golf, and I thought, like, I'm going to try and make this into a duology. And then the second book was hockey, and I met the hockey team, and I was like, oh, I guess they're just going to write this forever. So I've just kind of fallen into it and got stuck, and I'm having a great time. That's how I got into it.
That's awesome.
Anybody
I
else?
mean, for me, I've always been a really big sports fan, but I also never really thought about writing it until my agent was like, "Hey, you should try writing this because, like you can write a romance about anything, and sports is a topic that you know a lot about." And for me, it was kind of like real life athletes also that inspired the concept for the series. Mine is really a family series, since it's a set of 4 books that each focuses on a different sibling in the same family, and they all play a different sport at an elite level. So it's not just one sport for the series, but football, hockey, baseball, and then hockey and volleyball together in the last one. And yeah, I just thought it would be fun to kind of explore that concept of like a family that has this shared interest, but different takes on the shared interest, and then kind of like that bond between all of them, and what it would be like, since mine is a college setting, to for some of them to be aiming towards a pro career, and for others in the family kind of like redefining what the sport means for them when it comes to like their future career and that sort of thing. And new adult college setting felt like a good way to do that. So for me, it was just like a love of sports that eventually wound its way into romance writing.
I've personally always loved athletes. I mean, I'm not very athletic myself, but there's just something really, I don't know, really attractive about athletes in general, because you think about it and I'm like, they all have to be like dedicated and loyal and just kind of have a really good blueprint for being, I feel like good partners in relationship, even though, I guess we all have our little issues. So for me, that was just my biggest draw, was the personality, the character aspect of having an athlete that I could write about and, have a heroine or a hero root for. So that's what called me.
I have to
And it
say,
keeps
she
calling.
writes the best books. She like wrote some of my favorite sports romances of all time, Mariana. So if you haven't read From Lukov with Love, Ice Skating, Culty, which is a soccer player, and her coach, and The Wall of Winnipeg, obviously, but like just incredible. Everybody here writes incredible sports romance, but she has some of my favorites. So
Hey, Tessa.
I don't know if I'm pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, that really dedicated hero works super well for like the that caring aspect, and also that possessive aspect and that protective aspect. Like it's all kind of built into the sports romance trope anyway. And it's really fun to kind of see like the different takes on it in different books and different sports.
I find it's also really, I think, easy for found family to be like such a huge part with sports romance, because there is a team normally, or for most sports. So you kind of see that be a pretty popular trope within most of the book series for sports, I find. And Kat or Kate, would you want to share kind of what's inspiring you for sports romance?
So I grew up playing sports. I was a D1 hockey player. We were in the first Frozen Four. And I guess I like came to romance and read a lot of sports romance books, and without taking anything away from the books that were out there, none of them were like true to my personal experience of like being on a hockey team, and that the just dopey stuff that happens, and the banter and everything else, and so I wanted to give it a try and see if I could make that work. And I my team in college by the end was pretty well split between US and Canada in terms of where everyone came from, so there was a lot of rivalry, and so I wanted to write a book about characters where they had been teammates, but then they were on the national team and they had to, scrap and fight against each other in the Olympics, because there are a lot of couples out there who are now married and have children, and probably talk a lot of crap about like how many gold medals each of them have over the dinner table. And so that was the story I wanted to tell.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for real.
For me, I never have really been a sports fan, but I grew up in a sports house, where there was there was baseball on either the radio or the television, just, like all summer. And I like sports romance, but in a way that doesn't make me like need to know about the sport. Like I like had read a lot of hockey romance, but I always said it was like they could be fighting the Klingons, like where it's like I don't really need to understand like what they're doing out there. That's their business, like I'm there to watch people fall in love. But then I read a bunch of Katie Casey's baseball romances and underwent a full conversion experience. And I started to complain to everybody who would listen, which was like a slowly dwindling number after I alienated everybody, about why aren't there any historical baseball romances, like where nostalgia is kind of built into how we talk about baseball. So it seemed like a really good fit. And so I was like, somebody really should write one. Somebody like really, really needs to write one, And I think it took I speed ran that process, and like 3 months later I had a book, So that was what happened to me. And I still don't care about baseball, but
But it's America's pastime. That's
right.
Yeah.
Or it was in 1960,
Yeah.
and that's all
Yeah.
that matters to me. And I really like baseball as a concept, and like reading baseball biographies, but like in terms of actually following the sport, like no, I will do that in romance novels. Thank you, not in real life.
Perfect. And so what do you find is the hardest part of writing within the genre?
For me, it's the research. It's so much research you have to do, especially if it's a sport that you're not really that familiar with. Like I wrote one book from Lukov with Love, which is about figure skaters. And I love figure skating, but like I can't tell you like, what the moves are or anything like that, or even, what like the walls were called or anything. So it was the research is a big killer if you have no idea what you're doing. Like I know Kate said that she was a D1 player, so she has the experience, but when you don't have that personal experience to go back on, it's kind of like, okay, I need to figure out as much as I can from people who have lived it, who know what they're talking about, instead of just butchering something. That's a whole giant part of the book. So at least for me, it's just the sports, the research side, the research that's a pain in the ass.
Same for me, for sure, the research aspect. For my last book, which has volleyball in it, I never played volleyball myself, but I really wanted the one sister in the family to also be a college athlete, so she wouldn't be like left out with her brothers. And I have a really good friend who her younger sister is in college right now and is playing volleyball at a university. And she was so lovely in that she showed me a lot of game tape and we went through it very carefully. She kind of explained what the different moves are and what the rules are and all that stuff. And I learned a ton about the specifics of it in a way that I hadn't before. And that was, I wanted to make sure it was accurate, because I knew that the volleyball girlies would come for me otherwise. So I didn't want it to be like, oh yeah, like I know a ton about hockey and you can tell in this book. And then in volleyball, it's like, not all accurate. So yeah, wanting to do the research and do it well, I think is a big part of something like sports romance, where it's a real world thing that people are going to know a lot about because people are really passionate about sports. And often you see a passionate sports fan also be, doesn't have to be, you don't have to be into sports and be into sports romance, but often you will also be into sports if you're into sports romance. And I don't want to, like, you know, get something wrong that's pretty obvious, and then readers are like, oh, okay, like why would you do that? Yeah.
That's my biggest fear, someone going, you're an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you got me. Yeah.
For me, it was like making it not so much about hockey. So in my book, these two are working for like something like the Today Show or Good Morning America, and because I was like, is anyone gonna care if it like is set in a hockey season? And the truth is, there are plenty of books set in a hockey season and people care and it's great, but I was afraid that I was going to overwhelm people with like too much hockey. So instead they're doing like just shenanigans. The book is just like one shenanigans after another. So that was my biggest worry, is that I had written a book that will never see the light of day, but that was basically like a queer League of Their Own. Speaking of historical baseball. And I think it had too much baseball. And I think people were like, this is boring. Stop with the baseball. So I think that's a really hard line to get, like enough of the sports so you understand the characters and what is important to them without being like, oh my God, I could turn on the TV and watch an actual hockey game and it would be more engaging than you describing like line changes or icing.
It's like writing an action scene, right? You want to include the right amount of detail and make it dynamic without it being too in depth or something that feels like it's, you don't understand what's going on.
Right.
I had to I had a couple of friends who are into baseball read the book to make sure I didn't get anything wrong. But then I had another friend who had never heard of baseball and is not from the US read it to make sure that you could understand it without any kind of background knowledge. And like striking that balance was really, really hard. I think that was, I mean, any book that you write is going to have some kind of information that's that the characters know, but that the reader doesn't necessarily know, or that the reader knows really, really well. And so there's always that kind of balance that you have to strike. But with sports, it's like there's often this all or nothing where you have people who like live and die for this, and then you have people who like affirmatively dislike it. And so you want to be able to write a book that somehow doesn't alienate either of them, you know, and that is really hard.
Yeah, I agree with what everybody said about the research. I'm like, you do a lot of research, obviously, to make it authentic, but I'm at the end of the day going to be more interested in like the conversations that are taking place in the locker room after.
Yeah.
But I think like for me, the only thing I can add to what everybody else said is that like the professional athletes, their schedules are grueling. Like they're practicing every day and they're doing pressers and they're traveling constantly, and if they're not, they're tired, and so like it doesn't leave a lot of time for like date nights and things like that. So I feel like sometimes I'm just taking license where I'm like, yeah, the coach gave him the night off, or like there's a leak in the ceiling at the practice venue and they can't go tonight. So I want the athlete to be somewhere else, and I know he wouldn't be able to do it in real life. So sometimes there is a little bit of like, taking license with what their schedule would be like.
Trying to kind of find that balance between the sport and romance and making them meet in the middle there for sure. And do you guys read within your genre? Or if not, what are you currently reading and what's your favorite genre to read?
I mean, I read everything. Like I read too much. Like it's like a problem. Like my goal for the year was like to like come up with literally any other hobby. And that didn't happen. So yeah, I read within my genre, I read within the subgenre, I read within everybody else's subgenre, that's
You're
where
not picky.
Yeah, I'm not.
So much gay romance. If it's gay and it's romance, I'm all for it. And if it has sports, even better. And I know I have a bunch on my to read list, like the 710 Split and Love and Sports Ball are sitting there waiting for me. I haven't gotten to them yet. I apologize, books, I'm coming. But yeah, if it's gay and it's romance and there's sports, I'm there.
I also read everything, but I've been reading it. Oh, so sorry.
No, go for it, Grace.
I was just gonna say I've been reading a ton of alien romance right now. It's where I live.
Alien romance.
And
Nice.
has nothing to do with sports. But I don't know. It's the only thing I can get into right now. So I have a ton on my Kindle and they've been accompanying me around. But I do, of course, I'll read anything, but I also do like a good sports romance, you know.
I'm curious, what alien romance have you been reading? Just, for myself.
One that I read last, I would love to talk about is Married to the Alien Cowboy by Ursa Dax. It does cowboy romance and alien romance deliciously. Like, she combined all the tropes. It's lovely. She also illustrated the cover herself. She's amazing. And yeah, it was chef's kiss. So good. Loved it. Can't wait for the second.
What is it? Married to the
Alien Cowboy.
I'm gonna write this down right now.
Oh, please do it. Go for it. It is so good. Oh my goodness. Yeah, just really, I just love that kind of like space opera-y kind of like almost fantasy, but we're gonna set it in space instead, kind of alien romance vibe, and it is just fabulous. And also, since cowboy romance is also having a moment right now, like she kind of combines both of them, and there's really good world building. So yes. Cool. I just finished yesterday. It was great.
Thank you. I kind of go through phases personally, where I'll go through, 6 months of I'm just going to read alien romance, and then 6 months of I'm only going to read historical romance. I don't really read a lot of contemporary or sports romance. I did read Fangirl Down, Tessa.
Oh, thank you.
I love golf. So I was so excited when I was like, Tessa and golf.
I love it now too. It's so unfortunate how much I love it now.
I mean, that's great though. It is fun. It is fun. Like, I love
it's hard. It's a hard sport. People think it's not hard. It's very difficult. Yeah.
It's so difficult. And I just love that. Well, for me, sports are all one big reality television show, essentially, because you got like the drama on and off the field or ice or green or whatever it is. And yeah, golf offers a lot of it. If you follow it, you know that there's a lot of drama in the golf community.
Drama. Yeah.
Well, now they're making like docu-series about like real life golf worlds.
So that's the other thing is there's a Netflix series. Netflix is genius. They did it started off with Drive to Survive, which actually got Americans interested in Formula One, which has never been a thing really over here. I mean, some people it was kind of niche. Now everyone's watching Formula One. And then they did Full Swing, which is the golf, behind the scenes golf documentary, which I found like incredibly fascinating. And it helped inspire the character of Wells Whitaker, because there's this grumpy golfer named Brooks Koepka who
I love him.
So, but now they're doing a hockey one. I don't know if you guys saw that. They're doing there's going to be a hockey one. I didn't see what the name is, but it just came up in my feed. And
boy hockey, or is it girl hockey?
Boy, it's NHL. But I don't know, like maybe there's
you win some, you lose some.
Yeah. So yeah, anyways, but I forget what the question was. What do we read? So I read Beartown by Frederick Bachman, to sort of, because when I do research, I kind of like more interested in the vibe of the sport. Like, hockey has a very specific vibe. So before I started, Kate, you can attest to that. Like, I started writing Au Pair Affair, and that was what I was most interested, was like, I've gone to when I go to hockey games, and my daughter's boyfriend plays hockey, and it's like a culture. It's a cult. And it's like they are so like intense and like vulgar, but then they have hearts of gold, and it's like that's very much the vibe to me. I think it's a beautiful balance. But anyways, Beartown by Frederick Bachman made me go down a whole Frederick Bachman rabbit hole, and so I've been reading him a lot lately. And I don't usually read romance when I when I read, just because I feel like I'm comparing myself, or I'm looking for patterns, or I'm trying to figure out where they're going with it. And then I just realized that I haven't escaped at all, that I'm just like looking for where they're going, or I'm disagreeing with where their choices or whatever it is. And I just like, it's not escapism anymore. So I do read romances every once in a while, and they're always like, I read A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams this year, and a few others that were incredible. And so when I do, I'm always glad I did read a romance, but sometimes I just need to like not be in a romance frame of mind so I can just, shut it off for a while.
I like
I'm
being
the
able
same way.
to escape into other genres too, like within romance, you know, like since I mostly write contemporary, it's fun to be able to read alien or historical or mafia or whatever and have it just be like, it still feels like it's an escape. Like contemporary does sometimes feel like it's not work, but like like, you know, too related to what I'm doing. So it's just so nice that romance is like so big, you know.
Definitely.
Well, kind of going with that, you guys mentioned research a little bit. So is there any characters and Tessa, you kind of talked a little about this, real life athletes that have kind of maybe served as a muse or somebody that drew your interest to write your own characters?
I'll go with this one. I wrote this book called The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, which is a football romance. And the whole reason why I wrote that book was because I watched it's the show called, oh my God, I'm going totally blank right now. It's like they follow the football team. It's on HBO.
Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks?
Thank you. Yes. And they did the Houston Texans that year. And they showed JJ Watt, and it was instantly like his personality, like his work ethic was so impressive to me that I was kind of like, well, what if I wrote like a grumpy twin version of him? You know what I mean? And so that was kind of my inspiration for that book, was literally just Hard Knocks, because I love JJ Watt and he's such a beloved figure, at least in Houston. And that kind of inspired me to go down that rabbit hole and write like his opposite sort of with The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. And with my book Colty, I wrote that one kind of thinking about David Beckham, but just a German version of David Beckham, like that kind of star celebrity that's like, you know, everyone knows who David Beckham is. And so that inspired me to write him. Yeah.
I like didn't get the David Beckham thing. I mean, like I didn't get it until I watched the Beckham documentary, and now I'm like, I don't know, I feel some kind of way about him now. I don't know what, like I did, like I thought he was great, but I was like I wasn't like a huge fan. Now I'm like, and a fan of his wife. I'm like, just I'm a fan. Sorry, somebody else go.
I was inspired by like, there are all these couples who are like married, and one of them was on the US Olympic team and one of them was on the Canadian Olympic team, and people are always like, how did that happen? How does that work? You know, you've got Julie Chu and Caroline Ouellette and Gillian Apps and Megan Duggan, and there was just a big splashy thing with Marie-Philippe Poulin and Laura Stacey, and somebody was like, would they do this with Sidney Crosby and somebody else? And we're like, bro, they're getting married. But so there's all this like women's hockey, like they're just gay, man. Not everybody is, but there's a lot of couples and there's a lot of people dating, and it's just fertile ground to write romance.
Was that the couple that had the tweet of like they celebrate with they're on the same team and they celebrate with their fiance, and somebody had like tweeted and they were like
they're lesbians,
gay
Walter.
Marcus?
Yeah, their fiance
like
is Walter.
Yes.
Like,
and they put it on their shirts for their bachelorette party.
Yeah,
and I was
Harold,
like, that's iconic.
Yes. Yeah, like they're like, isn't it so nice that they're such good friends? It's the Christy Mewis and Sam Kerr. Look at that sportsmanship. Like they're getting married. But yeah, sportsmanship.
Getting married is really
said,
good sportsmanship.
Yeah.
Kate, earlier when you said the 7-10 split, I keep thinking about it. Is that a bowling romance?
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, like it implies it, but oh my God, I have
Yeah.
never read a bowling romance.
Yeah, it has a killer cover too. It's by Carmen Lee, and I have not read it, and so I apologize for not having read it yet. I just haven't gotten there, but it looks amazing, and I can't wait.
Okay, I'm gonna read that.
The cover is super stylish. I wish I had it. I wish I had it to hold up. But it looks great.
Nice. I mean, for me, I try to be, so for my series, I do actually have a specific person that I base not the series on, but kind of the like the vibe of it. Boomer Esiason, if anybody knows, was a quarterback for the Bengals and the Jets, and he does the sports talk radio in New York. And I'm from New York, so I grew up listening to him kind of talk about sports. And something really funny about him is he's a huge Rangers fan, Rangers, the hockey team. And his daughter is married to an Islander, Matt Martin. And I always thought that was so funny that, like, you know, his daughter is married to somebody who also, you know, he plays hockey, but it's for like a rival team, and like what those dinner conversations must be like the ribbing and stuff. And that's kind of the idea that I had to do like a family where like the dad used to play football, and then you know, he has these kids who are all kind of invested in different sports, and what that would kind of be like, that vibe. But in general, I try not to get too specific, just because, you know, they're like actual people with like real lives and stuff. And for me, I mean, I'm I don't know. I write mostly MF romance, but like I'm super queer. So like if I'm gonna be thinking about or wanting to be with any hockey player or anything, it's gonna be someone from the PWHL. Yes.
This is the 7-10
Taking applications now, by the way. Yeah. Oh, that looks so good. Oh my gosh, I love it.
That's
okay,
so
I think
beautiful.
that's
Harlequin.
nice.
Yeah, so I can, Kat, do you want to go? I feel like you haven't said anything yet. Okay.
Yeah. I am.
I'm not the moderator. What am I doing? I'm like, Kat, you go.
I am. Yeah, I base like the baseball player in this book kind of on Mickey Mantle, just because like he's somebody who had gotten way too much attention from like when he was a teenager, and wound up like there was no way he was ever going to live up to the highest expectations in the world. And you know, he was a metaphor, he was a symbol, he was America, you know, and like, and it's like that's not something that's a bad thing to happen to you when you are effectively a kid.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The only thing I want to say is that I've only written fan fiction one time in my life, and it was about J.J. Watt. I've written J.J. Watt fan fiction.
That is amazing.
I love that.
I really did. I published it like only in my Facebook group. Like, so no one's ever, it's never seen like the light of day, but I should just let it out there. Yeah. J.J. Watt fan fiction.
I just want to say, Kat, I am so excited to read your book. I'm a huge historical romance fan, and this is the first time that I've seen like a historical sports romance, and like I'm sure that there are others, but like I have it at home. Like I'm not at home right now, but I have it in paperback, and I'm really, really excited to read it when I get back from traveling.
So good. There really are very few. There are like really few historical team romances, right? Like there, like you have your Duke who's a boxer, right? Like that's something that happens, right?
Yes.
But team sports like are kind of chaotic and disorganized until like 100 years ago, and so I can see why there wouldn't be like a Regency cricket romance, even though if someone's writing that, I'll buy it.
Read it. Yeah.
I'll pre-order it in every format. Okay. But there should be more. Okay. Like, and it's specifically, there should be more queer historical team sports romance. And I'm just like manifesting that. Like I'm putting that out into the universe, like on the vision board, so more people can write it.
I love it.
Perfect. Do you have a favorite character that you've written? And if so, why are they your favorite? I'm gonna make you pick between the children, so to speak.
I don't want to go first.
Yeah. I can go because I had Hannah Bellinger from a book called Hook, Line, and Sinker is my favorite character. She like people kind of like have I have this sort of affliction of like if something happens in real life, like a tragedy, I don't necessarily cry about it. I just get it done, like get what needs to be done, and like so everybody else can fall apart and cry and like. But if I hear a song or see a commercial, I'll weep like a baby. It's like a very strange thing where real life stuff I can like block it, and then art I can't. Like art just hits me really hard. And Hannah Bellinger in Hook, Line, and Sinker sort of, she doesn't really understand things until it's put into like music form. And like she doesn't comprehend them emotionally. So I felt really close to her.
I love that.
That's awesome.
By the way. It Happened One Summer is probably like a top 5 book for me.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
For real. No, I love that book so much. And the follow-up was also awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I guess if I had to pick, maybe Nikolai, the male main character in my latest book, We Did Serve. He was just a huge surprise. He's the one male love interest in the series who is not a brother of the family. So he's like for the sister, the outsider coming into the family. And he's just like sad and broody and like has a scar on his face and is like super, I don't know, just intense and serious and like really loves hockey and really hates himself. And I just love writing that like broody sort of like not grumpy really, but kind of just angsty boy vibe more than I thought I would. Like it was a total surprise to me how much I loved it. And like I still really miss him, even though I haven't written in his point of view in months now. And I just love the way that he interacted with Izzy, the main character in We Did Serve. So it was an unexpected delight, and I'm still thinking about him.
Do you find it hard to like have to switch out of that mindset when you find a character you love?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, it's been I haven't touched that book since like January. And it just came out earlier this week. And I've been talking about them the whole time, but I've been trying to write other things. And yes, it's very hard, especially because I write first person present tense, dual point of view. So I'm like in both of their heads continuously the whole story. And I try to make it very voicey. So, by the time it's over, it's really sad. Yeah. Anyone else?
Okay. I think mine changes daily. I like to listen to my audiobooks before I work for the day to just kind of get into my mindset. So right now I've been listening to From Lukov with Love. So at the moment it's probably Jasmine, who's the heroine, a figure skater. She was like the most difficult character I've written because she's not a very likable person. She doesn't want to be a likable person. Like she's very just set in her ways. And I think I really like admire that about her, was that difficulty of writing someone who, it's very easy to dislike her, but to make people love her and root for her. So she's probably my favorite just because she was such a pain in the ass, and she's, in my head, she's always going to be that way. And I just kind of love that she's, she is who she is, and it doesn't matter if you like her or not. And she's just going to go through her life like that, I guess, her fictional life, but. So I would say Jasmine.
She's not unlikable. I like her so much. Well, she like, if you think about your heroines, is that I'm gonna tell you, they like take care of their family, and so like they take care of all their entire family, and they're so dedicated to like being in there and showing up for their families that like anything else they do or mistakes they make is so easy to excuse because you're like, this is a good, solid person who cares. And so it just like, it doesn't, it doesn't like, I don't know. They're never so self-absorbed that they don't just go out of their way for people they love. It's just like, you do it well.
I mean, because I feel like that's one of the most important things with characters is finding someone that you can relate to. Like, at least with her, it got into my head when I wrote Colty, because she's a female soccer player in that book. And I remember one comment was like, I don't like female athletes. They're manly. And it got stuck in my head. And I was just like, that's such bullshit. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, carrying that with the rest of my books to where I'm like, I I want this to be someone that you think that you can't relate to, but that you actually can. And I don't want to spend a whole book reading about someone that I don't like, that I can't admire, or can't see part of myself in, at least in like little bits and pieces. So thank you, Tessa.
For me, my favorite character is like always the one I'm writing. Like it has to be the character I'm writing. Otherwise, we have a problem and I can't write the book. So like you know what I mean? Like if I'm thinking about the book I just wrote, well, first of all, I'm never thinking about the book I just wrote, because when it's done, I'm like good riddance to bad rubbish. Like I never, you know what I mean? Like you're dead to me, you're out of my hands. But like I really like I have to be kind of like in love with the character that I'm writing in order to make them like a real person, and also to sustain interest in what I'm doing for 6 months of my life, a year of my life, In other words, like the character that's my favorite is the one that no one's seen yet, usually.
That makes sense.
Yeah, mine are, I don't know. They're Natalie's a total pain in the ass. So is Darcy. They just are pains in the asses to each other. And I love them for that, but not everybody does. They're not everybody's vibe. And there is a minor character who pops in towards the end who is in like a half a scene, who I love. Because I could write her just being totally ridiculous and a little bit out of pocket. And in my dream world, maybe she gets her own chance at a book. But she was really just me having a lot of fun. A lot of my very small characters got names from friends. So it would be like I stole somebody's first name and somebody's last name and put them together because I needed a huge cast for every of the sports that they're trying. And one of the most enjoyable things was one of the people whose name I stole read the book and was like, "Oh my God, I do this." And I'm like, "Well, you don't do anything, but thanks for letting me use your name." But anyway, yeah. So those side characters sometimes who are just coming in for shenanigans are really fun to play around with.
Yeah, for sure.
So kind of each of you have with lots of variety of sports, but what is one sport that you haven't written but would love to write about?
Basketball. My wife played basketball in college, and I have a 13-year-old who plays basketball. We watch a lot of basketball. I have a story percolating in my head, and I would love to write a basketball story.
Nice. I love
Women or female or male?
Oh, I don't write men.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say WNBA is having their moment right now.
Definitely WNBA.
Yeah.
I'm too gay. I'm too much of a lesbian. I'm like, I know that people find men attractive, and I love that for you, but it could not be me.
I agree.
I'm gonna get canceled. I'm gonna
get
get canceled so hard.
I just
more women's sports right now, like in romance. Like it's finally having its moment. And like I immediately started writing a Division I softball player into one of my upcoming books, and it's like it just felt like long overdue for me personally. So I can't wait to read more of it. So
I agree with that. Yeah, like the just women in sports is, sorry, Grace, just when you look at the Olympics, like how many gold medal winners and all these stories of strong females and athletes. And I think it's definitely something that we would love to see more of. So
somebody in
go
the
ahead, Grace.
was talking about the rugby player. Is it Ilana?
Lona Meyer. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that like, I mean, someone's got to run with that. She's like so interesting and funny and like such a positive the positive messages she's been putting out there. It's just like, yes, like more of that. Rugby is a sport that I tried to introduce into this current series, but my publisher is kind of like, I think people just want to watch GIFs of rugby players, or things like that. I'm like, they're like, I don't know if anybody actually knows the rules of the game, and I'm like, we don't know the rules of any game. Yeah,
You can
probably,
do it. You can
probably
pull.
rugby or volleyball. I probably would like to. My daughter's a volleyball player, so one of those two sports.
Yeah, it was really fun to do volleyball. I was just gonna say it's funny because as like also a queer person, I really love writing the guy point of view so much. I love writing male characters, even though I'm not like personally, attracted to them like in real life. So it's just interesting to see that difference, I guess. I would love to do an individual sport because I've done only team sports so far. So I'd love to do like golf or tennis or swimming or something where it's all on them to kind of train, and maybe it's sort of like a judging thing rather than like a points-based system. So if it was like gymnastics or something, it's interesting to think about, like the team bonding aspect, I think is really prevalent in sports romance, but there's also that like single-minded intensity of like a pro tennis player or something, right? So I would love to go in that direction at some point if I loop back to sports, hopefully.
I'd really like to do a golf book. When I saw Tessa doing it, I was like, it's incredible. So that was super inspiring because I love golf. But with the Olympics, track really got me. I don't know if y'all saw like Tara Woodhull and her husband, who's a Paralympian. I was like, oh, that's amazing. I love their story, especially, with him being a Paralympian, how he was, bullied in high school. And now he's like, married to like the most beautiful woman who's a freaking gold medalist. Like how much more awesome is that? So I kind of want to, I'm thinking about doing a track one at some point in the future. It'll probably take me 15 years to get there, but
Tennis is so like I don't really understand tennis at all, like as a sport, like not even slightly, but I watch challengers and now I feel like there should be like I should be able to have a new tennis romance every day of the year, right? Like it's apparently all about like psychosexual torture, which is great, But and so there were so few tennis romances.
Tennis would be awesome.
There's one that just got re-released from Avon called Clean Point by Med Jones. And I'm very, very excited to read that. That's also on my TBR. And that's both of them, I think, are like disgraced tennis players kind of vibe. And I think that, like that sport is starting to come into sports romance a little bit more than before, probably aided by stuff like that movie.
Perfect. I think now I'm going to take some questions from that people have submitted. So somebody had asked if you have control over the cover art. Doesn't look like anybody here does.
I mean, I think my situation's a little different because I was indie first. So with my series, my covers are my covers that I created. And then when Avon bought the series, they were like, these are great covers. And I was like, thank you, I know. And they were like, okay, let's keep them. And I said, fabulous. So they're what I wanted them to be. And I think in general, you do have some sort of, you get to kind of see the behind the scenes and the approval, but I don't know any other circumstances besides mine right now.
I saw some head shaking now. So
I have a lot of input. I don't know. They asked me, like, we start from the ground up, sort of just like, okay, like, let's talk about because we're doing them so far in advance now. I haven't even written the book yet. We're doing the cover. But I know, like obviously the physical descriptions, like their personalities go into it a lot. We talk about the color, the pose, the title and everything. And a lot. So recently, actually with the Fangirl Down cover, my suggestion was I wanted her to be on his back with binoculars, and they were like, no, that's very slapsticky. We don't like it. And I was like, could you just have them sketch it? I'd just have them sketch it and we'll just go from there. And they were like, okay, fine. Like we'll sketch that and we'll sketch out a few others. And it was clearly the best one. And I was like, so like sometimes like we do clash a little bit, but like our opinions, and like I know when to step back and say, okay, I'm not a marketing genius. Like obviously I'm just here to write the books. So and other times it is nice though to know that they will listen to what I'm saying and incorporate it or make changes based on the fact that I know my readers really well, I think, at this point. So I do have a lot of input, thankfully. I know that's not always the case, and it hasn't been the case for me at other publishers and at other times. So it just like, I think sometimes when you build some trust with the publisher, they might start letting you, you know, be annoying, send 500 emails being annoying, but yeah. So.
Perfect. So a question that we've gotten a couple of times was a question for everyone. Do you have a character of yours that you feel like you see yourself in, or a character that you wish you could take an attribute from?
Whenever I write like a sunshine type of character, I'm like, that could be me, you know, like I could be like that. Like I can be like a happy person with a positive outlook. And then like, I mean, like, no, it's not gonna happen. But I really like that in other people. And I really love writing sunshine characters. Like that's I think because it's so different from how I am in reality.
Sarcastic pain in the ass would be all of my friends being like, oh, this is you. I'm like, well, not 100%, but it is very funny to have people who have known me for decades read my book and be like, we see that. I'm not telling you what it is other than sarcastic and annoying. That is, yeah, that's me.
Anyone else have a character that they would like to see or see themselves in currently?
I feel like all of my characters have just a little bit of me in them, just a little bit. But maybe, that's a hard one. I got nothing. I'm sorry.
And then someone had a question of how do you deal with writing athletes if they don't win? Or do you make them always win?
Not winning. You know, like one of my books, they don't win, but I felt like it was so important because just, you know, in life, you don't always win. And I think that's kind of like something that I feel is kind of like beautiful in a way, like how you handle it. Yeah, it's a growing moment, right? Like in your life is just, and I think this is all of us, you know, you kind of go through some things, and you know, when you do win eventually, it makes it that much, you know, sweeter or whatever. So I kind of like it. I don't always I want a happy ending, but it doesn't need to be that kind of happy ending.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to chime in on if they write their characters if they don't win, or if they kind of always make them win?
Yeah, I mean, in this book that just came out, the athlete is like in a huge slump. Like he's in a record-breaking slump. Like he just cannot hit the ball. And by the end of the book, like he sucks a little less. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, and his team is terrible. Like, okay. But what happens is like people are rooting for the team, okay, and people are rooting for him, and that is like part of being a fan of a thing. It's like rooting for it even when it's like going through it, right? And I think that is also, I think that's kind of like, it's a universal experience, you know, being terrible at something or feeling like you're terrible at it and feeling supported throughout it is like that's good, like that's positive, even if the team isn't winning, even if they aren't winning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my book starts with like Natalie needs a new job because she gets left off of the Olympic team. She thinks she's gonna go and she's not. And so she's dealing with like this massive loss in her life of the career that she thought she was gonna have. And you know, she thought she had at least one more round in her. So she has to deal with that change of like, what do I do with my life now? But also these are two characters who were teammates in college, but then post-college, like for one of them to win, the other one had to lose. Because the US Canada, like someone's winning gold and someone's not. So you have that dynamic throughout the entire thing. And that's just, for women's hockey players until the PWHL, that's it. That was it. That was the pinnacle. You go to the Olympics and you win gold or you don't. So it was sort of fun to play with. Like the stakes were high.
So one question was, anyone interested in writing a motor sports romance, Formula One specifically, even more specifically, Lewis Hamilton-esque? So if you know Formula One, even if you don't, you might know Lewis Hamilton, one of the top stars. Any interest? And I know, Tessa, you mentioned Drive to Survive earlier and kind of how that brought more attention into the Formula One world.
Every signing I've done in the last like 6 months, people have said like, when are you going to write a Formula One? Like, when are you going to write Formula One? I'm like, I'm thinking about it, like I think I would want to write a lady driver or something like that. Like, I don't know. But I think it's such like, it's so, it's behind the scenes. That's so, it's glamorous. Like, it really is. I mean, the locations are so like lush that they go to. It's like, there really is, it is built for romance. It's dangerous. Like, that is another thing that makes it so appealing. So yeah, I think definitely Hamilton, maybe some Leclerc. I love George Russell even. Like, I love so many of the drivers. So yeah, maybe all of them in one book. One lady driver, just in the middle of it all. So that's a very different book, but we'll see.
I feel like if I could write it with Rebecca Welton from Ted Lasso as one of the team owners.
Oh.
I mean, anything with Hannah Waddingham is great. But that kind of vibe, and it would have to be gay.
Yeah. Yeah, she's like, she'd be the perfect team owner for that. The team principal.
They just had their female kind of a Formula Academy to kind of help with more of the female drivers in the sport. So we could see on the horizon in real life too.
I'm honestly not sure. I wouldn't rule it out though, because, I think I have the ability to get into any competition, any sport of any kind. And if I say that I'm not going to do it now, maybe like 3 months from now, it'll be the only thing I can think about. So I put no bars on anything, especially when it comes to various sports. But that said, I'm very casual watcher of F1 right now. Like, I'll watch it if it's on and I find it interesting for sure. And I do enjoy, I've read a few F1 romances now and they're adorable. But not on the immediate horizon at the moment.
I'm with Grace. There's, I don't want to rule it out, but yeah, I think I have like 3 other sports romances I'd like to write first. So it'll take another 15 years for that.
Well, in 15 years, you're going to have a lot of great, unique sports romance coming out.
There we go.
It's going to be track and track, right? Like F1 track and running track.
Yeah.
We'll take one more question. So someone had asked, which world out of all of your books would you like to live in?
I've written one book, so that's pretty easy.
Keep it simple.
Debut author.
You live in the world, right? The hockey world. I think I do live in the Hot and Hammered like series world. Like, I live on Long Island. I live in like, kind of blue collar Long Island. So it's sort of, I feel like I'm surrounded by that world at all times. But I do love, I definitely want to go live in Westport, Washington, and the Bellinger sisters worlds, like little fishing village. It's actually probably somewhere I'd probably just go vacation maybe, but just, yeah, that sort of misty fisherman town vibe. It's just like very appealing to me. The Pacific Northwest. I always said if I could live anywhere besides New York, it would be there. Like, I love the rain, I love the mist, I love flannel. So
set of Twilight.
Solid.
I mean, I feel like most of my books all take place in the same world except one, so it's a weak answer, but
mean, I'd like my family that I wrote about to be real. That would be nice. It would be nice to know them. And like, you know, in this alternate reality where the Hudson Valley has a good private college football team, which would not be real. It's entirely fake. That they would be so good at so many sports. But yeah, the whole vibe of them, I really enjoyed writing them, and it's, I'd happily go back anytime.
Like, I really, really don't want to live in the past, like at all. Like that's not it, But I do like the one thing I like about the last two books I've written that are like 1959, 1960 is that like you can work for a newspaper, like work like right 9 to 5 and like have a union job with really good benefits and buy and own a house and have like, job security. And that's like fantasy romance territory at this point. And I really like it.
I was going to say, it sounds like a fantasy.
It's like you're writing historical romance / fantasy romance just from that point of view.
No, like that's like the idea of there being a whole building just to house like a newspaper, and then every single person in it works a 35-hour week and has a pension is like incredible. Like you couldn't make it up, I love it.
Perfect. Well, I would love to thank you all for joining us and kind of sharing more about the sports romance genre. And I think I can safely say super excited for all new works. Love all the old works that you guys have put out. So if you would like to just end and tell people where they can find you, find more information, any in-person events you have coming up, kind of just give an idea of where they can keep up with all things that might be happening in your life. Would someone want to go first?
I'll go. You can find me, so tessabailey.com, or on Instagram, I'm at Tessa Bailey as an author. And on TikTok, I'm at author Tessa Bailey. And yeah, I'm writing sports romance, so stay tuned for more.
Similarly, you can find me on my website, Grace hyphen whatever that is, Reilly.com. And I think I'm author Grace Reilly on Instagram and TikTok, and I mostly hang out on Instagram. So if anybody wants to say hi, that's my jam.
I'm like mainly off social media, at least for the summer, like as like a little mental health experiment, see how that works. But I am like, my website is catsebastian.com, and I am still sending out my newsletter, which is like when I remember that it exists. And on Instagram and all the other places, I'm at Cat S Writes. So when I cave in and go back, that's where I'll be.
I am at I think all of my handles are Kate B, as in boy, Cochrane. And that's my website too, Kate B Cochrane, because Kate Cochrane was stolen. KateBCochrane.com. So come say hi.
I am mostly on Instagram. My username, I guess it's Mariana Zapata, and you can go on my website, marianazapata.com, when I remember I update it, which isn't that often. But thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It was so nice to meet all of you.
Well, this is Billy from Bookstore Romance Day again, and I just want to thank all of our authors, and thank you to Lauren for moderating. Thank you to everyone who attended today. Thank you to our sponsors and partners, and I'm going to list our publisher sponsors now. So a moment of boredom, little business. Harlequin Trade, Avon, Epic Reads, Source Books, Bloom Books, St. Martin's Press Romance, and Bramble. And a special thanks to our friends at Libro FM who have generously donated several audiobook bundles. Everyone who registered to attend a panel will be entered into a drawing to receive one of those. So thank you all for coming. This panel has been recorded, and the video will be posted to our YouTube channel sometime in the near future. Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.